what is most significant about the Mac is its tremendous scale. So for this latest report, we included over 850 billion impressions that were measured in real time, client side, across our publisher base, across tens of thousands of different sites and mobile apps. And so this is a truly massive scale and really represents the largest data set of this kind probably in existence. Certainly that, any sort of public report is based on. It's also based on global data, since we have a presence with publishers kind of worldwide. We publish the report twice a year, basically at the end of the first half and then at the end of the year. We used to do it quarterly, but we wanted to kind of reduce the frequency a bit because there is a tremendous amount of work that goes into generating each one of these reports. And also we wanted to be able to get into a bit more depth on these reports. One other thing, there are kind of three main sections to the report. The first provides insights into industry performance. So as the ad tech industry, how are we doing on ad quality and ad security? The second is a deep dive into the performance of 14 of the top SSPs. And then the third section is comprised of profiles of some of the big threat actors who were active during the period in review. So talking about kind of industry performance, if you see the graph on the right there, it shows the security violation rates and the quality violation rates over the last 3 years. And you can see for security, there was a huge increase in 2022 over 2021. 2021 was actually the lowest security violation rate that we've ever measured. As I mentioned, we've been doing this report going back to 2018. So 2021 was as low as that got, and then in 2022 we saw a very significant rebound, driven in part by everything that's happening with Google. On the quality side, the rates have been high for each of the last 2 years, and we'll get into some of the reasons for that. But we don't quite see that big difference between 2021 and 2022 there. On the left, you see the quarterly view for both quality and security. For security, fairly stable rates across the 4 quarters of 2021, with a bit of a drop off in Q3, and then for quality, we had a big spike in Q2, but besides that, the things were fairly even. So we do some, I think, really interesting breakouts of the data. Again, for each impression, we're able to collect a tremendous amount of information, like what browser was the user using, what operating system, what was their geo, all sorts of things like that. So we can cut the data a lot of interesting ways. And one of my favorite ways to cut the data is by browser family. So this is browser family irrespective of the user's operating system. So, for Chrome, this is going to include Chrome for Android, Chrome for Windows, Chrome for Mac OS, and so forth. And what's interesting to see is you might think that security violation rates would be fairly even across the different browsers. You wouldn't think that the browser itself would necessarily have that large of an effect. But in reality, you do see very large variation across the different browsers. So for Chrome and Safari, they have the lowest rate. And then Edge has a violation rate 3 times that, or nearly 3 times that of Chrome. And Firefox is more than twice as high a violation rate as Chrome. So it's kind of curious to think about some of the reasons why that might be. With Edge, the There may be some demographic reasons for that. Edge, I think, has a very different user base than some of the other browsers. I think it tends to kind of skew maybe towards older users, for instance, or those that are on Windows. But for the others, Chrome, Safari, and Firefox, I don't think you necessarily see that. So I think what's driving this is more indicative of the specific defenses that have been built into these browsers against things like forced redirects. And some of these browsers just do a better job of kind of guarding against that than others do. And of course, there may be additional factors at play as well, but I think it is interesting to see this variation across the different browser families. Another interesting view that I like is how the rates for both quality and security vary by bidding framework. So, as most of you know, many publishers use a bidding framework such as pre-bid to manage bidding from all of their SSPs. If you're managing relationships with 10, 15, 20 different SSPs, you want to make sure that you're getting the highest yield, and you want to be able to run an auction basically in the header to ensure that you're getting the highest possible price for each inventory opportunity. And so the three most commonly used bidding frameworks are pre-bid, open bidding, and Amazon TAM. We're including Amazon TAM for the first time in this report. Before, we've only covered open bidding and pre-bid. But again, you see some interesting variation, particularly on the security side. The security violation rates are significantly lower for Amazon TAM and open bidding compared to pre-bid. So again, you might ask, why would this be? Because for the most part, you have almost all of the same SSPs bidding through each of these different frameworks. And the reason it is, we believe, is that with TAM and with open bidding, those frameworks are controlled by a single entity, a single company. And those companies do employ some scanning for security issues. They do filter out some bids that are coming into those frameworks that potentially have security issues. Whereas pre-bid is a bit more of a free-for-all. It's an open source framework. It lacks any sort of centralized scanning of creatives for security or quality issues. And as a result, you see a security violation rate, 3 times that of TAM and, over 5 times that of Google open bidding. So, kind of interesting view of our data are what are the categories that are most blocked by our publisher base. Our publisher base is pretty representative of the publishers in general, kind of across the wider industry, and of course with category category controls and brand controls, we empower our publishers with the ability to block specific categories, especially sensitive categories that they may not want to expose their users to. So kind of unsurprisingly, the top categories for blocks are gambling, pharmaceutical drugs, and alcoholic beverages. That's not surprising because these are also some of the most regulated classes of advertising. Particularly gambling, it's not legal in many jurisdictions. Pharmaceutical drugs, drug ads aren't also legal in many jurisdictions. In the U.S., they're subject to all sorts of, they're legal, but they're subject to all sorts of regulations. Alcoholic beverages, kind of the same thing. The interesting trend that we saw over the course of 2021 was what happened with the blocks for cryptocurrency. In the first half of the year, they were the 3rd most blocked category, so accounting for a pretty high number of blocks, as there was just an influx of ads for cryptocurrencies, particularly in the first quarter of the year, but also into the second quarter. but that fell off precipitously in the second half of the year, as that the cryptocurrency industry kind of fell into turmoil, and you had collapses of different kind of exchanges and so forth. So it fell, for the whole year to fifth place, representing only 4% of total blocks. Okay, so getting into the next section, we take a look at the top 14 SSPs. 3 of them were able to call out by name. So Google, Sharethrough, and OpenX. We actually offer that to any SSP if they want to kind of unmask themselves in our results so that people can see how they perform relative to their peer group. So at this point, we have 3 SSPs that kind of where their identity is open, is transparent, and then for the others, we use a coding system where the code for each SSP carries over from one quarter to the next to allow someone to actually see the trend in that SSP's performance. So for 2021, the industry average for security violation rates was 0.21%, meaning about 1 in every 500 impressions had a security issue. You can see for many of the SSPs, the issues were far lower than that. Google has an extremely high rate, which is a bit of a change historically. If you go back 2 or 3 years, Google was regularly one of the kind of cleanest sources of demand that we tracked. Starting in maybe late 2020 or more so into 2021, we really started to see a degradation in their performance. And now for 2022, they were consistently the worst performer with a security violation rate, over twice the next highest SSP. Another interesting slide is we track the daily maximum security rate by SSP. So what this shows is, for those same SSPs, not only what was their kind of overall rate, which we just saw, but the gray shows for any given day within that year, what was the highest rate that they had. And you really see some kind of extraordinary numbers here. So SSPI, their overall performance was not great. Certainly in the kind of the worst half of the 14 SSPs we track. But for a single day, there was a single day where over 5%, that's over 1 in 20 of the impressions they delivered had a security issue, which is just an extraordinary amount of volume in how many creatives they deliver on a daily basis. The quality violation rate. So we were just talking about the security violation rate. Publishers care very much about the quality violation rate too, and the quality violation rate comprises issues like auto video or heavy ads, misleading claims, nudity, things like that. Things that where the ad is disruptive, or it's inappropriate, or it's just making a claim that it can't really substantiate. So these again are ads that are likely to kind of annoy users or drive them from a publisher site. So the industry average for the year was 0.49%, meaning about 1 in every 200 or so impressions exhibited a quality issue. But you can see again, there's very significant variance across different SSPs, with SSPP having the lowest rate and then SSPJ having the highest rate. What's interesting is some of the best performers on security are among the worst performers on quality. And then it's interesting to see what drives those rates. I mentioned that it's things like quality violations include things like heavy ads and misleading claims. And for almost all of the SSPs, it really is heavy ads that drives that rate. with quite a bit of auto video present as well, and some misleading claims. But for Google, you can see the red here represents that the vast majority of quality issues coming from Google are for misleading claims. And again, it gets back to that same problem they're having of just kind of managing their enormous base of advertisers and managing a self-serve platform where anyone can kind of easily go online, with an ad. And then this view is an interesting one because it tries to put everything together. So it's a bubble chart, and it represents on the x-axis what the security violation rate is, and then on the y-axis the quality violation rate, and then the size of the circles represents how many impressions we saw from that source. So you can see there's definitely some outliers here with Google on the security side. And then there's a fairly small number of SSPs that are able to do both well. So this green section here represents those SSPs that scored above average on, or better than average on, quality violation rate and security violation rate. So historically, it's only been a handful of SSPs that have been able to kind of earn their way into this group. We saw a bit more in 2022 than we've seen in previous years, but it's really only 5 that scored. So the last slide I'm going to go over is the threat activity for the quarter. So you can see that, and this is just looking at security, the security violation rate varies all the time. It's not at all stable. As we know, the threat actors will try to take advantage of holidays or maybe weekends. And what's also interesting is how the kind of the breakdown of that those violations really changes and evolves over time. It's not like we see the same percentage of violations coming from, say, forced redirects, for the entire time. But instead, we saw fake update ads predominate in Q1 and Q4. In Q2, phishing scams, which is this kind of dark blue, were really came to the fore and were a big driver of the violation rate. And then forced redirects came in 2 waves. First in March, and then again in May to mid-June. But were relatively absent for the rest of the year. So some really kind of interesting trends there. And then I won't go through the individual threat actor profiles, but I just wanted to bring them to everyone's attention as we do these great profiles. In this one, I think we did it for 7 different threat actors. That will give you an idea of what their tactics are, how long we've been tracking them, when they were most kind of prevalent in the industry, and so forth. So I definitely encourage everyone to not only check out the entire report because it's kind of full of really interesting facts, but also to check out these threat actor profiles. There's a lot of interesting information here, and that is the Mac.